Alright, there's two things I want to get out of the way before we even get into the intro. Number one, when I first saw the Vesta-class, I honestly believed it would be the result of the Federation trying to design a super yacht. It just looks that way. Second, there are two ways of pronouncing the USS Aventine. Aventine. Yes. Just like Listerine, or Listerine, or iodine and iodine, or aubergine and aubergine, which for some bizarre reason translated to eggplant. And an eggplant is exactly how I feel about which one of these pronunciations is correct, so I'm just going to go with whichever one pops into my brain first, and we'll take it from there. Okay? Okay, moving on. Exploration starships are the bread and butter of Starfleet. It's basically the whole point of the organization. Well, until the burn. Then it was kind of just panic for a while. So when it comes to designing a new exploration ship, it will be a heavy task for the Starfleet Corps of Engineers. The Federation Starfleet wanted a new range of starships, with the idea of a multi-mission exploration starship coming up top. Therefore, the Vesta-class was created. Entering service in 2380, the ship class would be a testbed for a number of experimental technologies. This, believe it or not, actually included a quantum slipstream drive. The Vesta-class was Starfleet's ultimate exploration ship when it came to the late 24th century and looking to the early 25th. So let's warp into this Star Trek Starship breakdown and learn all about the Vesta-class. Welcome to Trek Central, lords, ladies, and sovereigns. I'm your host, Lieutenant Commander Adam. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. What Star Trek Starship should we take a look at next? It is entirely up to you, so make sure you leave us a comment in the comment section below. Okay, engage. A little disclaimer here. Yes, I know, I've already done one. This one's actually relevant. The Vesta-class exists in Star Trek's extended canon, which is via books, comics, and video games. Now, a lot of you have whinged about that before. Consider this your official notice to calm down. For goodness sake. Currently, at the time of writing, the ship does not actually exist in the main canon of Star Trek. This is in movies and TV shows. You can fly the ship in Star Trek Online, which has its own story, separate from the main canon. And personally, I'd highly recommend reading the Star Trek Destiny novels themselves, which feature the Vesta-class, notably the USS Aventine, under the command of Ezri Dax. We'll talk more about her ship in this video. Let's go! The Vesta-class was, of course, a new type of vessel for Starfleet, classified as a multi-mission explorer, able to perform various tasks. The ship had a length of 672 meters and a width of 195 meters, yet a height of only 88 meters, making the vessel relatively flat and compact, with only 30 decks and 750 total crew members. The look of the Vesta very much stemmed from other Starfleet ships like the Intrepid class and the Sovereign class, and a super yacht. No, I already made that joke, sorry. With a meld between the standard primary saucer section and secondary hull that you would find on most Starfleet ship designs. This ship would have this slim, aerodynamic look, as it was designed with slipstream technology in mind, which required certain aerodynamic features to lessen the chance of microfractures on the ship's hull. The nacelles were also designed with slipstream in mind, with their pylons being reinforced. The nacelles have a larger cooling system than normal warp nacelles, so the entire nacelle casing is larger than other ships. They also have a more advanced Bussard ram scoop system to draw in interstellar hydrogen. The deflector is more in line with the Galaxy class, an oval-looking blue deflector dish rather than the Sovereign's circular yellow one. But the deflector has to focus on the quantum field to facilitate the ship's transition into slipstream. This requires a tremendous amount of energy, and it's why the Vesta-class has a larger deflector and the quantum field focused controller is centered in front of the dish. The ship's main shuttle bay was on Deck 12, almost the center of the ship. However, right in front of the shuttle bay on the exterior was a large flight deck, allowing small craft too large for the shuttle bay to simply land, such as runabouts. This area also included a large deck lift which lowered into a runabout bay, not that different from modern-day aircraft carriers. Wait, it's an aircraft carrier? It's a super yacht aircraft carrier? The ship featured state-of-the-art weaponry, which allowed it to contend against the Borg, and was designed to do so, actually, during the height of the Borg threat in the 24th century. Being a Starfleet ship, of course, it was arrayed with phasers and torpedo launchers for both quantum and photon torpedoes. However, what was state-of-the-art about this class was it also carried transphasic torpedoes. You know, those overpowered golden explodey things which were brought back by Admiral Janeway to change the history of Captain Janeway and get Voyager home a little bit sooner than it actually did, which would have originally been in 2378, but instead they came back sooner, and that creates a paradox because then Captain Janeway can't become Admiral Janeway and travel to the future, and oh no, I've gone cross-eyed. Where was I? Cannons! Yes, that's a good place to continue. The ship also came equipped with retractable experimental Mark 12 phaser cannons. These phaser cannons are positioned on the underside of the saucer section, with a forward-firing arc. However, not just the armaments of the Vesta were advanced. Advanced shields and advanced sensors and advanced toothbrushes were also integrated into the ship. These advanced sensors included a multidimensional wave function analysis module and a sympathetic fermion transceiver. Lord only knows what the toothbrush was equipped with. These new sensor technologies were deemed top secret even while installed on the class prototype. The Vesta also had more advanced ablative armor integrated into its hull, which allowed it to disperse particle beam impact on the hull if the shields were down. In terms of engines, it was a fast bugger, that's to be sure. The ship came with the standard warp drive, allowing it to reach speeds of warp 9.99 plus, but who cares about that? It also had transwarp drive and quantum slipstream drive, because options are fun. Other advanced technologies on the vessel, such as a quantum field focus controller and a chronoton integrator, enabled these. I kind of feel like the Starfleet Corps of Engineers just sat down and put all of their most favorite complicated words into a hat, shook them up for a little bit, turned it upside down into a concrete mixer, let that rotate for a while, and then blew it out of there with a leaf blower into a black hole, which they then reversed the polarity of using some contraption or the other, before they finally decoded what was left, and there's the device name. Does anybody else feel that way? Or am I taking things officially too far now? Maybe it's time I requested some shore leave. As a multi-mission explorer vessel, the ship housed 24,000 metric tons of cargo space, allowing for a lot of storage for various missions, as well as 20 individual transporter rooms, including 4 cargo transporters and 6 emergency evacuation transporters. In terms of auxiliary craft, for other movements of personnel or cargo, or to perform missions of their own, the ship housed a standard complement of Type 11 shuttles, and also 1 or 2 Danube and Yellowstone runabouts. As if that's not enough ship-to-service capability for you, shuttles were not the only aspect of the Vesta-class that could land either, as the ship also ripped off the Intrepid class with its own landing capability. Yes. Now, given this is a starship from the books, we don't really know much about the visuals of its internals, per se. It came with your standard layout, though, the usual fixtures including crew quarters, crew relaxation areas like 10 forward, and the mess hall, and also cargo storage. Main engineering would obviously be a location, however, a lot of space was also dedicated to the quantum slipstream systems. There's a diagram by the original designer that shows how this is laid out in the Vesta-class itself. The class was put into service by at least September 2380, and by February 2381, there were 7 Vesta-class vessels in service. Apart from the namesake of the class, the USS Vesta itself, Vesta-class starships were named after the 7 hills of Rome. This was perfect timing, as the Borg invasion of Federation space began in 2381's January, and with the experimental and state-of-the-art weaponry of the Vesta-class, it was one of the prime Starfleet ships able to mount an effective defense against the invading force. Due to their performance, Vesta-class ships were assigned to defend the Federation core systems, including Sol, Vulcan, Andor, and Tellar. No love for Proxima Centauri, I guess. The USS Aventine, one of these Vesta-class starships, would take a beating over Akamar during a Borg attack, which killed more than 250, 1/3 of the ship's crew, including the captain and the first officer. Fancy that! Following the chain of command, this left Ezri Dax to assume command, and 1 week after this battle, Starfleet Command would officially follow the age-old rule of "oh, sod it," and promote her to full captain, giving her command of the Aventine. Anyway, the Aventine tone would play a major role during the Borg invasion after discovering a network of subspace tunnels that had allowed the Borg to invade Federation space. The Aventine tone and the Enterprise E would start investigating this network, but be forced to stop when a fleet of 7,000 Borg vessels was making their way to Earth. Captain Dax would try to use the newly installed quantum slipstream drive to mount a defense of Earth, but instead they ended up using it to plant a fake Borg queen within the collective, which would help save numerous worlds from being destroyed by the Borg. The USS Aventine Tone, the USS Titan, and the USS Enterprise E would also be present as the collective was defeated by their ancient origins, the Celia, the Bolians. Yes, that'll do. In the Azure Nebula. After the Borg invasion, the Aventine Tone would make great use of its quantum slipstream drive to aid in rebuilding what was destroyed by the Borg, and its sister ship, the USS Esquiline Line Lane Lone, would also be outfitted with a quantum slipstream drive of her own, after the successes of the one in the Aventine. The USS Esquiline and the USS Quirinal, these ship names are going to be the end of me, I swear, would be assigned to Project Full Circle, a project with the aim of checking up on the Delta Quadrant after not only the journey of the USS Voyager, but also the now dissolution of the Borg Collective. After an encounter with the mysterious force known as the Children of the Storm, the Quirinal would crash land on a planet, but ultimately would be salvaged and repaired thanks to a concerted effort led by Project Full Circle fleet engineer Belana Torres and the ship the USS Achilles. In September 2381, the USS Esquiline and the Quirinal, alongside the USS Curie and Hawking, would find themselves stuck within the Omega Continuum and sacrifice themselves to restore that area of space, destroying all 4 ships and losing 785 people, therefore also losing all Vesta-class ships assigned to Project Full Circle. In April of 2382, the designs of the slipstream drive used on the Vesta-class starships will be stolen by the Typhon Pact, an alliance of forces hostile to the Federation that formed after the Borg invasion. The Breen ships with these stolen designs would look similar to the Vesta-class. Later that year, the Aventine would be supporting a mission of Julian Bashir and Serena Douglas, who had learned of a new prototype Breen quantum slipstream drive and were ordered to destroy it, to make sure that the Typhon Pact would not get too powerful. In August 2385, Captain Dax and the Aventine crew docked at the new Deep Space Nine for the dedication ceremony of the new starbase after the original DS9 was destroyed by the Typhon Pact. Though the Aventine, and by extension Ezri Dax, were on good terms with Julian Bashir, in September of 2385 the Aventine was ordered to intercept Bashir on his way to Andor, thinking he was leaking information to the Typhon Pact. Dax, however, sides with Bashir, knowing he has the cure to an Andorian reproductive crisis that was currently happening, and which was why the Andorians had left the Federation. For going against orders and helping Bashir, Dax would be interred on Jaros II, a Federation stockade. Who became captain of the USS Aventine is unknown at this point, but later that year, it was found out that the Federation president pro tempore was actually not who he claimed he was, and was working with a Cardassian fringe group known as the True Way. With this discovery, brought about by a bunch of random teens and a very strange dog, Dax was cleared of her crimes and regained her captaincy of the USS Aventine. In 2387, the Aventine was one of the main ships vital to trying to mount a defense against the Davidians. Unfortunately, though, during a Davidian attack, one of them, being in a temporal flux, hit Ezri, which caused her to rapidly age and turn to dust. Alongside Ezri, many members of the Aventine's crew shared the same fate. Sam Bowers then takes command of the USS Aventine, though not for long, as eventually the entire timeline, known as the First Splinter, is collapsed to defeat the Davidians. Yay for retcons. The Vesta-class was first introduced in the TNG novel Greater Than the Sum, with reference to the USS Aventine. Still, the first appearance of the Aventine and the Vesta-class would come about in Star Trek Destiny's trilogy of novels. As we mentioned before, the class itself is named after the Roman goddess of hearth and home, which is why the ships of the class were named after the Seven Hills of Rome. Authors David Mack and Keith R.A. DeCandido confirmed Vesta's namesake. Out of all 7 hills of Rome, only Kalian and Palatine have yet to make an appearance in the Star Trek universe. However, the ship would only get a design in 2008, designed by Mark Rademacher, who would then take inspiration from the USS Voyager and the fake USS Dauntless, you know, the one we did a video on, as they had previously used quantum slipstream. The design of the Vesta-class would also incorporate elements from Rademacher's unique design, this being the USS Spirit. It has been seen in the 2009 Ships of the Line calendar. As an interesting note, Rademacher once had a concept on his Flickr profile that showed the Vesta-class performing some sort of saucer separation. This being where the front section of the ship, which we would call the saucer, separates from the main hull. Whether this confirms that the Vesta-class can perform this operation is, well, unknown, but there are no recorded events or mentions of it having this potential. It's likely it's just a concept. Would you command a Vesta-class starship in the Star Trek universe? No, seriously. Would you? I might. I mean, I suppose I'm required to say I'd rather have a Defiant class. Who knows, it could be fun. If you want to keep up to date on all the latest Star Trek news, lore, and more, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and never miss a video from the team here at Trek Central. You can also follow us on social media or join the community Discord server. But for now, I've been Lieutenant Commander Adam. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time, Teen Tane Tone. Live long and prosper, my friends.